Cousin, F24, falsely accused me, M31, of SA. Now my family is contacting me after almost 10 years. I first posted this on relationships and it got auto-removed and I got no answer when I tried to get them to check it manually. Please note that no one involved is under 18 anymore and the situation did not involve soul abuse. That's the whole point. Hi, I've never had an account on Reddit before, but someone on another forum linked this subreddit and I've been reading some stories. If this is the wrong subreddit, please let me know. Also, English is not my first language, so bear with me. It's pretty much like the title says. I just feel so lost on what to do. This is tearing up wounds and old rage is building again. Let me give some backstory. I've grew up in what was probably the most normal of normal households. Parents worked a lot, but still managed to care for me and my 3 older sisters. We were never super close as a family, but never had any issues either. Same goes for my extended family. They always lived a few hours away, but we saw each other during summer holidays or Christmas and always got along great. But when we got older we naturally grew apart as everyone had their own lives. I'm 31 now. In 2014, when I was 22 and attending uni, I got a phone call from my mother that turned my life upside down. I remember I didn't even answer at first, because I was gaming with friends. But she called again immediately after the first call. This was an unwritten rule in the family. If you call twice like that, it's important. Like someone died important. So when she called again, I excused myself and answered, only to hear chaos in the other end. Like people were arguing. But when my mom realized I had answered, it sounded like she went to another room and closed the door. I just asked what was going on and I heard she was crying. My memory of this conversation is a bit blurry, but she basically asked me if I had something to confess to regarding D. E is my cousin on my mom's side and is 7 years younger than me, 15 at the time. At that point I hadn't even seen E for several years. I just said no and asked what this is about. She just cried even harder and started accusing me of solely assaulting E back when we were children. That E had told everything to my sister, and that my sister told my mother and my aunt. E had told them that back when she was 9, and I 16, she'd been playing in my room when I came in and started feeling her under her clothes and kissing her. My mother screamed at me to say something, but I couldn't even speak. It was all so absurd. I remember thinking that must be some bad joke. The last thing I remember saying was that it's not true and that E is lying. But then my mom goes on saying that how E gave such a detailed description of where and how. Then she kept asking something like, "Did you do this? Did you do this?" And I just screamed back at her, "No," each time. It all ended with my mom putting me on speaker and both my mom and dad saying that they don't want anything to do with me and never to contact them again. 2 of my sisters texted me later that day, pretty much saying that I'm disgusting and then blocked me. I know it's weird, but after that call I went to have a long shower. To this day I still don't know why I did that. After calming down, I started calling and texting everyone, even E. No one answered and the ones who hadn't blocked my number by then quickly did so. The only thing I heard back was from my father who texted me to stop contacting them and that they need to heal. That was 9 years ago and I haven't spoken to anyone in my family since that day. To say this F***ked me up is an understatement. I was living in a haze for weeks after that and hardly ate at all. It didn't help that this was right before I was supposed to defend my bachelor's thesis and was already stressed out. Luckily my co-writer sensed something was up and saved me by controlling the conversation so that I got the easy parts. Without him I sure I would have failed. Needless to say, no one came to my graduation. Then started the worst period of my life. I spent the first year expecting the cops to knock on my door and arresting me for sexual abuse. I didn't land any jobs, just living off my saved money. I drank a lot and did oxy. I also grew resentful and violent. The only reason I didn't hurt anyone is because no one was around. My neighbor called the cops on me once after I had smashed a glass, but I managed to convince the officers that I had just dropped it, and they went away since there were no others inside my apartment. Instead of sleeping, I spent my nights planning how I could hurt E and make sure no one ever found out. Even thinking how I could actually do the things she'd accused me of, but much worse. I know, I'm not proud of that. I landed my first real job in my field in late 2015. Only then did things start to improve. I focused all my time on my job, as it gave me something normal to do. Recovery was a slow process, but I drank less, sober now for 4+ years, and smiled more. I lived cheap and earned good money, so I made a point of buying myself a nice gift for my birthdays, a VR headset, a motorcycle, Lego, etc. And last year I moved from my shitty apartment and bought a small house. It was an old dream of mine to have my own garage and a garden to care for. This has boosted me even more. So my life is okay now. I still got problems. I've been on antidepressants for the last few years, and while they help, it's not in a happy way. They simply remove the dark thoughts and replace them with dead ones. My trust in other people is close to non-existent. I've tried dating, but only been on 2 dates with 2 different women. It's really hard to speak like a normal person when it comes down to it. And what would I tell a potential partner when she asks about my family? Oh, you know, they accused me of a heinous crime and we're not talking anymore. But I didn't do it, I swear. My field is very male-dominated, so the only woman I really speak to is my therapist, who I like a lot. If this text was difficult to follow, I apologize. I'm not good with words on the best of days, and I started rambling a bit when it all came back to me. It's already getting long, so I will fast forward to my current issue. A few days ago, I received a text from my mother. It felt unreal and I was scared to open it at first, so I just stared at the notification for hours before opening it. Yesterday, another text followed. Translated, they basically say. Text 1. Hi, my name. It's been so long since we talked. We miss you and want to know how you're doing. Here she writes a long text about my sisters and how my nieces and nephews are getting big. I didn't even know I was an uncle. Know that we love you and always will. Mom and Dad. Text 2. Hi, my name. We understand if you don't want to talk to us after what happened, but please listen. Last month, the subject of you was brought up at a family gathering. During this, E was downplaying everything that had happened to her. It got so awkward that she finally admitted that nothing happened and that she probably just dreamt it. We were all appalled by this. When we last spoke, we wanted to protect E and did the only thing we thought we could do. We know that's not excusing how you were treated. What E did was wrong and we're all angry at her. We have called everyone that knew and told them the truth. We all want to speak with you and your sisters want you to meet their families. Please write back if you can find it in you to forgive us. Mom and Dad. So yeah. That's my situation right now. I haven't answered, but they no doubt know I've seen it. Truth be told, I'm seething. So many old, shitty memories are now stirring again. I don't want to forgive them and I wouldn't trust myself to be in the same room as them right now. Part of me wants to call my family and unleash everything on them, to guilt them with everything I went through until they all hit their rock bottom. Then dedicate my life to make my cousin's life as miserable as possible. The other part wants to ignore them and continue with my okayish life with my motorcycle and my garden to keep me company. I don't have any friends. The only people I speak to are my co-workers, but we're not really close. I've called my therapist's clinic, but they told me she's on vacation and won't be available for weeks, and I don't want anyone else than her. So that leaves internet strangers. So please, where to go from here? Do I ignore them and continue as is, or do I answer? And if so, what to even write? I'm pretty sure meeting them in person would be a bad idea for a foreseeable future, but I'm not even sure how my life can improve from picking up those old threads. As embarrassing as it may sound, I've dreamed about the day when they apologize to be them throwing themselves to the ground and kissing my feet. Texting seems so anticlimactic now. TLDR. My cousin falsely accused me of soul assaulting her when we were minors and I was disowned. Now it has been revealed that it never happened and my family is contacting me and wants to make amends. I don't know how to respond. Edit. Holy shit, I went to bed yesterday after answering a couple of comments. I was happy then when someone just said to wait for M31 to come back, something that had flown over my head. Now there's 1,300 comments. I can't possibly answer all, but I'll try to read all when I get home from work. I just want to address something I saw a few people mention. That my therapist wouldn't leave for that long without telling me. I don't know how this works in other places. But this is a state-run clinic, no hourly rate or anything. I got assigned to her when first going there, which means she will continue to get me on meetings that follows. But that is not 100%. If she's on leave or sick, I might get someone else. 4 to 6 weeks of vacation is not uncommon. Update. Hi, it's been a while since my last post and I can't count the people asking me for an update. So I thought I'd post one, even though there's not much to say. First, I'd like to get a few things out of the way. Thanks all who wrote and offered support and advice. I'm sorry I couldn't reply to all, but know that I've read them. Also, thanks to everyone who reached out to distract me with talks about my hobbies. I know I wasn't very responsive, but I know you meant well. To the openly hostile ones, borderline threatening me to quit antidepressants and counseling and instead accept insert religious figure here into my life. No. Many people told me I should pursue legal action. I didn't mention this in my first post, but I decided against that long ago for a few reasons. Best case, she would get a slap on the wrist and I wouldn't gain much at all. I just don't think it's worth the legal headache. And if I somehow would end up losing, I'll owe her legal costs. A lot of people have been messaging me about the fake updates. As I wrote in an edit to my other post, there are some fake updates on TikTok and YouTube. So if you saw something on other platforms that you didn't read in the text below or in the post linked above, it wasn't by me. While I don't really care about people making fake updates, I just want everyone that read my original post that these videos are not by me. Someone even claimed they had access to my original post on r/relationships, which contained these updates. That is false. With that cleared up, I'll add what actually going on with my life right now. Know that I wrote the original post in an anger and because I was completely lost on what to do. I needed a kick to the head and I got that within like the first 5 to 10 comments. That was really all I needed. I've met my therapist. I was first scheduled for September, but she managed to move it and we've had 2 talks so far. She also read the original post and many of your comments. While she would have preferred me to confide in a colleague of hers, in the end she was glad you guys told me to calm down a bit and wait. She knows firsthand how I can get when angry. I won't go through everything we talked about, but it comes down to that I may respond to my parents at some point, but if I do, it won't be anytime soon. I've started writing everything down that I want said to my family and then my therapist and I will go through those things continuously. For those who asked, they haven't tried to contact me further. I will not be updating this issue anymore. Not on Reddit, including DMs, or anywhere else, in case of more fake updates. Nor will I be commenting unless it's something very important. I don't want to be rude and I appreciate all the support, but it really is draining sometimes. I was almost glad when the moderators locked the comments on the first post. I'd like to end by saying thanks again to all the people who's been wishing me well and checking up on me. And for the people writing to check that I'm still alive, don't worry. You don't have to do that. I'm off work for a while and not by the computer much. I'm busy painting my garage.
Let's go to the next story.
I, 28M, split with my ex, 27F, after years of her having affairs on me, but I forgave her at the time. Do I share the evidence publicly or no, when my reputation is being hit? Hi all. I, 28M, am doing my best to keep a level head, and not do anything rash. The massively condensed story is that, I was engaged to a girl, 27F, engagement in 2020, 8-year-long relationship, whom I thought was absolutely perfect in every way. Shortly after COVID started, she had an affair on me when I was medically incapacitated, separate medical issue that had me extra depressed due to feeling handicapped for almost 8 months. I had no idea in the moment, and said affair lasted almost a full year until the affair partner dropped her for another woman. The story of how I found out is wild, and it may be possible I never would have known if I didn't connect dots. I'm too frustrated to expand on this for this post. I have never experienced pain like that, heartbreak, and my whole world turned upside down. I was devastated, my concept of trust was completely and totally broken. I truly wondered how anyone could be so evil to do what she had done to me. I was prepared to leave, she begged me for forgiveness, and after 2 nights of thinking about whether I respect myself, or if I love her more than I respect myself, I decided to stay. Both of her parents died when she was a child. It isn't an excuse, but I told myself that if I wanted to be a good man, I could try to make it work. The following year was not very productive. I made her go to therapy, and in hindsight, should have made us do couples therapy. Marriage delayed for this reason. I had no idea that she was talking badly about me to all of her friends at the time, but lo and behold, about a year later, I discovered that she was cheating on me again. I know what you are all thinking, and yes, I know, I am an idiot, I am a loser, I am stupid. I know all of those things. I felt humiliated, used, and could have avoided it all if I left the first time. I spent a month on my own outside of the apartment and convinced myself that, because I didn't try couples therapy, there was more I could do. I admit that I did work a lot during COVID, and my ex was lonely. I know that the first year post-affair, instead of being fully accepting, I would make comments out of spite, I would hold it over her head. My hatred was mixing with my attempts to re-establish our relationship. I found every reason why I wasn't a good enough partner, and made a commitment. I knew it was insane, it was crazy, but I wanted to truly be a good man, and try, this time, to do the rebuilding the right way. Only showing love, never making snide remarks, trying to take initiative with dates and gifts, being super communicative about my needs and everything I personally had done wrong. I got a list from her about the things she felt were insufficient in the relationship, and I worked on every single one of them to have long-term changes. I honest to God feel like I threw my ego, humiliation, and brain out the door, and was the best partner anyone could have asked for in the last year. I rejected a job opportunity that would have put my work-life balance out of schedule. I did 90% of the cooking and cleaning. I went to therapy on my own, and tried to get my ex to communicate with me more, to do couples therapy. I begged her to tell me the truth and come to me openly, that I would have a therapist act as a mediator if she could not, etc. etc. I got new hobbies to spend time with her, would take her to get constant pedicures and manicures to show initiation, to try and make her feel prettier. I would try constantly to reflect on every mistake I knew I made, and make a reasonable effort to show long-term improvement. I took my fitness super seriously again and always tried to console my partner when she told me how she didn't feel beautiful because of her weight gain. Recently, I learned that, in my month-long absence, when I was re-evaluating my life, my ex was telling her friends that I was an abuser, that I got mad because she DM'd a guy, and to this day, it never ended. Reddit, I know. I am effing stupid. I am an absolute effing loser. I have never shared what happened to me to anyone except my brother after the first affair, and after the second instance of cheating that I discovered, I shared it with 2 friends. I would tell them that I don't believe my ex was a bad person, I know there were things I could do better, etc. No one in my circle would ever dare to speak ill about my ex because I would defend her even in my darkest moments. I failed a suicide attempt in that month-long period. My ex and I recently split, and it was because I was tipped off from a friend of hers that decided to have a conscience. That my ex was planning on leaving. The leaving is not an issue. I know that anyone can leave for any reason, and I respect it. But I felt effing even more humiliated because, after a year of me pouring my heart out, pushing my ego aside, to try and pamper a woman who had multiple affairs on me, with belief that only an environment of love could truly fix this relationship, I didn't care that she was leaving. What I cared was how she didn't even have the gall to tell me directly. I confronted her about it on my own. I want to reiterate that I understand I am the world's stupidest effing person. I spent thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours of my time, years of my life, and I could have ended this the first time, almost 2 years ago, when I found out the first time. My ex wants to maintain a friendly relationship, but I truly believe, at this point, it is just because she doesn't want her friends and family, let alone others, to know what she did to me. I have held it in for so long. I went to therapy. There are exactly 3 people who I told, who will carry it to the grave. I truly believe that unless my ex feels accountable for her actions, she will never change. It is hard to do nothing and be successful, as the greatest revenge, because I know for a fact that her friends badmouth me, call me names, and it makes me want to pull my hair out because I did nothing to deserve the slander. This city is relatively small. I have an extensive library of screenshots, texts, photos, the whole 9 yards that would absolutely devastate my ex if it was publicized. I wouldn't need to say a single word. It wouldn't be my word versus hers. It would simply be her words versus the evidence. I feel like I need to share the intimate details with her remaining family, and maybe her friends. Remember, parents died when she was young. I feel as though if they know, she will feel a fraction of what I felt, knowing that her secret is out. I could go nuclear revenge, send it to her boss, send it to every friend who talked shit about me, post it to her socials in the middle of the night, but I just don't know if that is what my conscience, despite all of this, would allow me to do. I will be moving out in a few days, with a new job, into a new area, to start my life anew. I am learning to respect myself and to move on. What should I do, Reddit? Do I keep these humiliating experiences to myself? Of course, restart therapy, but do I not publicize it, despite knowing I'm being called an abuser by people who know nothing about what I have been through? Despite knowing her family thinks I am the cause for the lack of movement with said engagement? It honestly hurts. I feel like I have been stabbed in the back so many times, but every time, I cleaned the blade off and tried to take care of the person who stabbed me. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. Once again, I know that I am a bitch, a loser, a effing idiot, all of those things. I hope no one ever has to go through the pain of what I went through. And for anyone who recently discovered their partner cheating on them, just leave. Don't try to fix it. I don't want you to ever be as much of a mess as I am. Leave. Respect yourself. If you don't respect yourself, no one ever will. I didn't respect myself, and I paid the effing price.